You want to introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is O.C. Blackburn. I have two nicknames. I go with Shorty among family and close friends, and Blackie by others. I'm originally from Wilkes County. I was born in Wilkes County. We moved to Winston-Salem when I was probably 3 years old. My two families, my grandfather's family and my mother and father, we moved to a farm on Renola Road, which was a Hoosier Cummins farm across the street from Renola and adjacent to the Bone Gray Estate, which is called Grayling. We lived in two tenant houses on the back entrance to the James G. Haynes home, which is now Sika. The formal address for the Haynes homes was from Robin Hood Road, 2721 Robin Hood Road. And then we lived there until Christmas of my 5th birthday. And then we moved across town to another farm. They ceased the farm there at the Hoosier Cummins farm, and they started developing it. This developing encompassed what is now Marguerite Drive, and from there back down to Sawdust Creek. When we moved from there to the Angelo farm, they had not started Reynolds Park at that time. It was a cattle farm that belonged to the Will Reynolds family, and that was given to the community, and it was built by the WPA. It opened in 1940, and along with a companion development of Bowman Gray Stadium, which was off of Stadium Drive. It opened in 1939. Excuse me. And we lived there, and we went to school at Sage Garden. And when I was 14 years old, my parents got sick, both of them. They were tenant farmers. So my brother and I had to quit school and go to work, and I went to work at Reynolds Park in the golf shop there. Prior to that, I had caddied at the golf course. My brother worked on the golf course, and I began to serve my apprenticeship under Thurman Evers to be a professional golfer. I did such, and then when I was 21, I got drafted and went to Korea as a combat medic. I served that service over there, returned and did various occupations until I was hired by the Winston-Salem Fire Department. I had 30 years there and retired with the rank of captain in 1989. Also, during that time, I continued to work in golf on the side, and I worked with, also during this time, I was working with various youth in different things. One of the strong suits that for me was the out of doors, plants, trees, shrubs, things of that sort. The kids that I had also, I worked in the scout troop, with the scout troop, and worked at a Christian camp. The interest in the out of doors developed from, I guess, my mother, because she was well schooled and knowledgeable of home remedies, which has a totally different meaning now. During that time period, most of your drugs were produced with natural substances. Now they are created artificially. A lot of them are so unusual that now we would consider them a risk to take them, such as using part of a wax beetle for earache in a child. You separate the abdomen from the thorax, and there's one drop of blood there, and you drop that in the ear, a child's ear, for earache. Another is like if you have tetter or ringworm on your hand, you would take and shave the hull of a green walnut, give you a flat surface, rub it on the infected area, and it cauterizes it chemically. It burns quite a bit. And then, of course, you have other products that are natural, such as the jewelweed or spotted wintergreen, which grows along streams. And it's a succulent plant similar to aloe. And when you take and crush it and rub it real good, you get a smooth, oily, glutinous substance. And you can apply that for various skin irritations and whatnot. Another one is the use of poke, which poke salad, the green shoots you can eat like you would turnip greens. But when it turns, excuse me, stems, when they turn red, then they become poison. You can take and chop up those stalks and whatnot and boil them and then use the liquid for scabies, itch, tatter, and things like that. And there's just a multitude of this, and it's an entire field of study if a person wanted to follow that up.
Did you consider yourself to come from a wealthy family as a child, or was it a fairly simple childhood?
No, simple childhood. We were poor. We always raised hogs. We had a cow. We grew our vegetables and stuff like that. So we didn't feel the pinch as much as some did back during the Depression. One of the things that we used, we didn't have a cash crop, but when a cow would give birth to a calf, then we would sell that calf for veal to a butcher shop or whatnot, and that was considered cash crop for us. We would do vegetables and things like that for sale. Mr. Angelo, who owned the Angelo Farm, he had a wholesale food business in Winston-Salem. It was just off of 9th Street downtown. And we would raise vegetables on his farm for him to take and sell. We had molasses mill. We made molasses, and that was another cash crop. We canned a lot of berries, preserved a lot of fruit. Probably what would qualify the question of were we wealthy or not, I had not lived in a house with running water, electricity until I was 21 when I went in service. So it was a world of interest out there that I had never experienced. We didn't have a radio and those things like that. And as being small, we were very adventuresome. We stayed in the woods quite often, and we'd visit the neighborhood dump and get magazines and things to read and whatnot. And it was embarrassing then to talk about it, but now it doesn't, because I realized that was just a false feeling that I had. The first job that my brother and I had, we were yard boys at the Ralph Haynes estate. My uncle was their gardener, and being yard boys, we kept the flower beds weeded and dead-headed. If Mrs. or Mr. Haynes was having a garden party, a garden club or music club or something, we had to go into the formal garden, pull up all the old tan bark off the wall, and put down fresh tan bark, and then take a rake and flip it over and leave a pattern so that the guest would make the first track in the garden. If the children had a tennis match, we had to get the tennis court ready, things like that.
How were y'all paid, and how much were you paid?
Well, Mrs. Haynes was a very generous person. She paid us $15 a week for 5 days and a half a week. And for a child, that was a lot of money then. Uh, in fact, most day laborers only made $1 a day. And she also was a benefactor to people who were, quote, underprivileged. I had a wind on the side of my face. It protruded out to where I could see it. And she was very benevolent. She took me to a doctor at Baptist Hospital, had it removed. And she, by the way, was Thurman Chatham's sister. She was due at Chatham before they were married. And then Mr. Raff, their son, Philippines, was a great benefactor of the arts in Winston-Salem. He was responsible for the beginning of the School of the Arts and various other things. So everywhere that we lived over the period of years, it was a learning cycle for us. And my two brothers, one retired from the Air Force, and another one retired from McLean Trucking Company.
Did you share those, that income with your family to help make?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And was it needed?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because there was never in our immediate family a salary job until my brother and I began to earn money. We actually caddied at Reynolds Park, and that would give us 50 cents for 18 holes at that time. Of course, the green fee was only 75 cents. And then we worked in the concessions at Bowman Gray Stadium. Before we were tall enough to make change across the counter in the concessions, we carried Coca-Colas or soft drinks in a peck bucket. And we sold them for a dime, but we got a penny for each one we sold. So we learned early on that if you wanted something, you had to work for it. We developed a good work habit, and it continued. And my greatest asset was my wife. We were married 1953, and she was a secretary to the president of the governing body of the Moravian Church, which was head of the PEC. And we were married 51 years. After she retired, she developed Alzheimer's, and I cared for her at home as long as I could, and then I was fortunate enough to get her into Salem Town, which was a real blessing. Throughout, we had adversities. I myself had a lot of injuries. Some were work-related, some was not. But we had an attitude that we never looked back or looked down. My biggest joy was working with people. I love people. I love life, and my Creator. And beyond those, there's really nothing there. The value of wealth or things diminish as you get older. And so if you don't have memories and you don't have friends, you don't have anything. And I've been blessed beyond belief with friends.
Well, it sounds like you earned a little bit of income from golf. Did you ever pursue the sport as a pleasure, and how good did you get?
Well, I served a 5-year apprenticeship to become a professional golfer, which I did. And I was a member of the PGA when I was 18. You cannot do that now because of their different qualification structures. You did not have a multitude of young players then that were pros. In Winston-Salem, we only had one at Old Town, one at Forsyth, and one at Reynolds Park. There were very few golf courses. We had